to thank all the participants to be connecting, and hope everybody enjoy the event and participate.
Mhm.
So Ligia, when?
1 more minute.
Sure.
So how is the weather in where you are?
Here not so good. Here in Spain. I'm in Spain. I'm in Barcelona, and it's not so good today, unfortunately.
What is not so good?
Well, a little bit cloudy.
What is the
But
temperature?
well, the temperature is quite mild. It's I think about 18, 20 degrees maybe. What about you?
For me, I am in Seattle. The weather actually is quite cold. It was quite cold. Maybe 15 degrees. Then sometimes at night will go down to 0 or a single digit. But this last week, all of a sudden, it jumped up by 10 degrees. It was like summer. But next week will go down to 16, 17 degrees and raining.
That's Seattle time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seattle.
Yeah. We're after 1 week, we're happy that we'll get rain and we don't have to water our plants.
And Italy is great. We've got blue sky.
Oh,
Warm.
fantastic.
Yes, today is very nice.
That's nice.
So we will have the chance to be in Milan. We will have a really great day.
Yes. Today is perfect day.
Yeah. I really wish we are together in the same room.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, I would say we can start the workshop now. So as Michela was saying, thank you very much for all the presenters to have joined us in this workshop, and also for all the attendees to join us and hopefully to participate with us in this workshop, as we want it to be also a bit interactive. And this is the workshop number 2, so from the last day of the conference, and it's a workshop dedicated to the women in engineering. And the topic of this workshop is the road towards a more diverse post-COVID era, in which we'll try to bring both the challenges and the opportunities that the COVID pandemic brought to women doing research in academia and in the industry, also organizing conferences and everything. So now I'll pass the word to Michela Svoluto Moreolo from CTTC Spain, that is the chair of our conference, of our workshop.
Thank you so much, Ligia, for the nice introduction. I now will share my presentation, the presentation of the workshop. Hope you can see my screen now. And let me put in presentation mode. Okay, yes, this is the title of our workshop. As Ligia said, we would like to thank a lot to the organization to allow us to include this workshop in the program. And also would like to thank the IEEE Women in Engineering co-sponsoring this event. I would like to introduce you the organizing team of the workshop, set by Ligia and Michela Svoluto Moreolo, Senior Researcher and Director of Quality Program at CTTC Spain. Also, we have Diana Cassioli, also connected. You can see her. She is the chair of the Women in Engineering Affinity Group Italy section. She is with the University of L'Aquila, Italy. Lisa, thank you for taking the initiative for including this workshop in the program. She is with Politecnico of Milan and is part of the organizing committee of the conference. And also we would like to thank so much Maria Furdek, Chalmers University Sweden, that also collaborate and support the organization of this workshop. As Ligia said, in this workshop we would like to talk about the challenges and the opportunities regarding diversity in research after COVID. What's happened after COVID? We will would like to have this focus today on the effects on policies to promote diversity in industry and academia, and our thoughts and discussion will be driven by the questions such as how COVID affects the future career, the diversity, if there will be some change in the policies after this disruptive event in our society, and if these changes are negative, or we can also see some opportunities on this, and let's see together which are the possible new roads, if they can be envisioned, opened, and let's discuss together on this. So I'm so happy to share this journey with you all. I thank the person, the invited speakers that we have to perform this journey today with us. After this brief introduction, Diana will introduce the Women in Engineering Italy section, their activities. Then Shan Wei, thank you so much, Shan, to be here despite the different time zone. And Shan is will talk about the history, how everything starts from the community perspective at last OFC 2020. Then we will have a first panel discussion. We'll launch a poll, so we will involve all the audience and talk with Shan and the other speakers as a first start of this workshop. And then we will continue our journey exploring the opportunities in academia with Fatima Ganning, and after in industry, thanks to Annalisa Morea that talk about the program in Nokia Stronger. And finally, we will end our journey having a look on the future perspective and how is going the digital transformation, and if COVID is accelerating this, or is just a temporary crutch. We will try to solve these questions, talk about this interesting question with Roberto Saracco. And finally, we will have another panel and some closing remarks. So audience is really welcome to participate. Thank you for joining us. We will have some question and answer time after each invited talks, and these two panel discussion we will launch a poll, so please participate, give us your opinion, and let's discuss about it after the first and the last talk. And we really do hope that you enjoy this journey with us. Follow the journey with us. Thank you so much, the speakers, to provide us the journey, and of course enjoy the event. So I would like to thank you so much for your kind participation, and let's start with Diana Cassioli and the introduction to Women in Engineering Italy section affinity group. So Diana, I give you the floor now.
Thank you, Michela, for your kind introduction. I also wish to thank the organizers for giving the opportunity to organize this exciting event, which is very timely. I want to share. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
My presentation? Okay, thank
Yes.
you. We'll just spend a few minutes presenting the affinity group Women in Engineering of Italy section, where I serve as the chair since 2017. I'm on the second mandate. Please take note of our contacts if you want to be informed about our initiatives. I found in Italy a very active group, very exciting community. We work very well, and we participate in several conferences, organizing events. Maybe most of you know that the IEEE Women in Engineering is one of the largest international professional organization for the promotion of engineers and scientists, female engineers and scientists. And our mission is to inspire, engage, encourage, and empower women to afford careers in STEM. So our mission is the global inspiration and engagement. And, you know, our objective is to create this very diverse community where the talents of women and men can work together for the overall objective, which is the benefit of the humanity. I just would like to focus on the most ambitious project we started in 2017 with the Women in Engineering Affinity Group of the IEEE Italy section. This is the commitment chart where we defined the 12 objectives and relative key performance indicators in order to promote and support women in STEM careers. This chart is updated and upgraded every year, and don't miss the next event on September from 6 to 9, 2021, which is will be an online forum, and we will organize a workshop to discuss and make this commitment chart a pan-European project, because we will share with the other chapters. Or better, not pan-European, it's regionate, because we will collaborate also with Switzerland and other affinity groups spread all over regionate. Okay, I will just stop here to give the floor to the chair, and then to give enough room to the discussion later and to the presentations of the speakers. If you want to be informed about our initiatives, please join us on our website, Facebook, and LinkedIn pages. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Diana, for this presentation. So now let's start our journey with the first invited speaker, Shangwei from ZTX US is here with us with her presentation. Is invited talk titled An OFC for the History Books, the Final Weeks Leading Up to OFC 2020. Shan, the floor is yours.
Hi everyone. Can you hear me and see me?
Yes, perfectly.
Okay, good. First of all, thank you, Michaela, and the organization to invite me to this. I'm truly honored. Today, I'm going to tell you the story of OFC 2020. It's a conference that almost didn't happen. Had the California government closed, locked down a few days earlier, or had we made an easy decision to cancel instead of a hard choice to turn it to a virtual and on-site, both a hybrid event. Many of you probably, I can't see you, but probably many of you, at least Michaela was there. Many of you were there with me from the beginning when we started the technical program committee, and with me through the end, either on site or online. And just like many of you, I am a woman working in a predominantly male industry. So this story is actually our story. So I will share my slides now. So I should share the whole screen, right?
Yes, we can see your screen.
But what do you see?
Now the president, yes, the presentation. Perfect.
Okay. So here's a story of OFC 2020. It actually started March 2019 when the program committee first met, all 180 of us. We were super excited. 2020, what a special year. We said we were going to make it a very, very memorable OFC ever. Everybody's going to remember it, much talk about. And guess what? We made it. We did it, but not for the reason we thought it would be. So before I continue the story, I want to tell you the organizational structure of OFC. To start with, it's co-sponsored by OSA, IEEE ComSoc, and IEEE Photonic Society as in the steering committee. And then underneath that was this budget, long-range planning, and the TPC. There's 3 general chairs, 3 program chairs, and 15 subcommittees. Making progress towards a diverse, equitable, and inclusive community is a core value of OFC. So there's no doubt that policy is in place. But let's look at the subcommittee membership for 2020. The total subcommittee member, 173, plus the chairs, that comes up to be about 180. Chairs, out of the 15 subcommittee chairs, 33% are female, and members, 18% female. We are making progress, but we are not there yet. And remember, this is we're not considering other diversity groups. As you all know, a conference, the beginning of the conference, the big bang is this plenary session. We have 3 great plenary speakers, and they are introduced traditionally at OFC, introduced by the general chairs. And we have 3 outstanding chairs. And OFC 2020 is 2020 is a very special year also. It's actually a 50th anniversary of low loss fiber. In 1970, Corning announced this low loss fiber, 3 dB per kilometer. It was a breakthrough, and that started our whole industry. So to celebrate that, we had a special session celebrating 50 years of light-speed connections. I'm sure many of you heard of him, Dave Welch. And these are phenomenal speakers. They're wonderful, great talks. There's a need for more diversity. So I remember that was in November, or October, November time, I think. Liz Rogan, she's the CEO of OSA. OFC co-sponsored by 3 societies, and OSA runs the operational side. Liz called me up. She said, Shan, we have an opportunity. She said, can you join the general chairs? And because it's a special year, can you, as a program chair, introduce the special sessions? And there, in addition to this Fiber 50, we have other special sessions set up. Can you join them and introduce the program? And can you be the MC for the Master of Ceremony for this special keynote, for the Fiber 50 keynote? Basically, I will be the person to warm up the audience before Dave to present, and then I will close the session. Then, have I done it before? No. So what did I say? I said, yes, Liz, absolutely, I will do it. I understand my role was the female ambassador. I know I have to rise to the occasion. I have to take on the challenge. I take the chance. I take this chance. It will be a good. I know I have to be the role model. And I decided not deciding. I thought that I will just be myself, be authentic, and I will totally enjoy it. I will enjoy it. That's before. That was no December, October, November time. Everything was going smoothly, and we're just hitting all the milestones, planning OFC 2020. Then, as you all know, things start to happen. I'm going to tell you the rest of the story through the timelines. In January, Wuhan lockdown, and U.S. banned travel from China. Around that time, I was in Geneva for an ITUT meeting. Most of us would meet again in March at the OFC. So we said goodbye to each other, see you at OFC. Yeah, sure. Virus going on in Wuhan, but it would never come to the Western world, right? Even if it can, we could handle it. When I came home, emails started to come in. No more business travels, flights canceled. Here's a good one. How could you force us to go in person and catch the virus? Then Mobile World Congress canceled. This is a huge, huge deal. Around that time, every day we saw companies withdraw one after another. Before then, Dave and I, my two co-chairs, Dave Plant, McGill University in Montreal, Shinji Matsuo, NTT in Tokyo. We had our daily calls, daily email exchange, daily meeting. We didn't know what to do. We were thinking about what we should do. On February 28th, the daily email exchanges were not enough. So we started a daily calls with the OFC management, led by Liz. So here's a screenshot I must show you. This is our routine every day. Dave and I would talk for an hour and plan what we were going to say to discuss with the OSA. And then the Liz and the team would join. We talked with them. Shinji would join when he woke up. And then OSA, the team would leave after work. And we continue. We stay on the bridge and continue. You cannot see, but in the background, the OSA office cleaning crew there cleaning the office. And we thought it was kind of amusing, so we took this screenshot. And I didn't know that I would ever use it in the presentation. But anyway, we continue, and it was a very, very intense time. March 1st, the APS, America Physical Society annual meeting, this is their biggest meeting every year, they cancel the day before. There are people arriving, they already arrived in Denver, and there was no conference, canceled. People are telling us, you must do the right thing. You must do the right thing, cancel OFC. This is a week before then. Dave, Shinji, and I were thinking, well, should we recommend canceling OFC? And we thought, what's our responsibility as program chair? There are students who have to publish their papers in order to graduate. There are researchers work on all these groundbreaking research innovations. They wanted them to be published. All these people that we are responsible for. Then we thought, well, if anybody, any conference could pull it off, it's us. We are the communications, optical fiber communications conference. It's a chance to show OFC's leadership. And what better way to showcase the optical communications technology we all have worked so hard for years. We continue the discussion, and we thought we must do the hard right, not the easy wrong. We continue discussion. Liz, she's my role model. She was super calm. She listened to everything, and they have already thinking about it. And March 3rd, that's the day we decided to go for a hybrid conference. It's 5 days before the show. We made an announcement, and the OFC made the announcement the next day. And what at that point, what touched me the most was emails started come in. I'm still coming. How can I help? And I cannot go, but how can I help? We're getting emails from all the colleagues, friends. It's amazing. It's all hands on deck. Not that you're women, men, young, professional, senior people. It was such an incredible community. I can be more proud of. I feel so grateful and lucky to be part of it. Well, picture is worth 1,000 words. I'm going to show you the rest of the story in pictures. I have never seen a more quiet San Diego in my whole life. These are the TPC members who made it on that day to the photo shoot out of 180. Our PDP review meeting is lively. Sometimes we have two computers talking to each other. It was very, very interesting, and we did it. There's Michaela. We did everything. We ran everything very smoothly and completed the PDP review. And I think we set an example of how we can do this remotely. This is a regular session. We had 3 cameras set up. The one camera showing the audience, so the remote participants can see the audience and they can see the screen and so on. there's me and Dave running the special chairs session. You could see that it was the beginning. Some people were wearing masks, and our protocol was no shaking hands, no touching, no hugging, of course, no kissing on the cheeks, washing hands, and we had hand sanitizers all over. We didn't know about the saying what 1.5 meter away from each other. But luckily, nobody nobody got sick, but that was the protocol. And of course, we also had some relaxing time. We had a chair session, a conference reception. Michaela, you were in many places.
It has been nice.
Yes. For the plenary session, the three on the left are the general chairs, and the one on the far right is Dave, and the three plenary speakers in the middle. And I was the FEMA ambassador in the middle, sort of. The Fiber 50 celebration, right? I have a story to tell you. It's just in a second. What I want to point out is, as part of this promoting diversity, OFC has set up this Suzanne Nago Lounge. Suzanne was the very first OFC program chair and general chair, and the lounge was set up in her honor. It's a place that we hold a lot of like diversity presentations, talks. The one showing an example is it's very relaxing. We just usually sit around a coffee table and just chat. Like my story today, I will be giving it sitting around with everybody with actual coffee in hand. So next year, I welcome you. I highly encourage you to stop by the Nago Lounge. The Fiber 50 there's a photo on the bottom right. I was the MC that, as I told you, the protocol as program chair, I was always encouraging and telling people, no, don't shake hands, stay away. Well, guess what? I made a big faux pas. After Dave's talk, after his presentation, he walked off the stage and I walk on the stage. And as we were passing each other on the stage, guess what? We shook hands. And immediately after that, I sort of froze for a second. And with several hundred people in the audience, and I don't know how many more online watching, I just, out of blue, I said, don't tell anybody I did it. And all of a sudden, everybody started to laugh. And I was still in my authentic self. I said, oh yeah, by the way, don't do it. Nobody, please don't do it yourself either. And people laugh even harder. Just at that moment, I relaxed, and I felt that I sensed that everybody relaxed because we laughed and we made that connection. And so I turned a faux pas into somewhat a more positive moment for everybody to relax and make the connection. The very last day of the conference, in the morning, California lockdown. The San Diego Convention Center COO came by and said to Liz and the team, well, we are locking down everything today, but as you are already packing up, we'll let you continue and finish the day. Had our last day was the day after, we would not be allowed to finish at all. So we managed to it would have been devastating. I would have been devastated that we worked so hard and we could not finish it. But we did, and we made it. Everything went smoothly. It was the best out of the very tough situation. To conclude, I want to leave you with a few thoughts. Be the changes you want to see, and take on new opportunities. Don't be afraid. And most importantly, enjoy the ride. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shan, for this talk, for remembering us what's happened, and thank you for sharing this experience, and for being inspiring, so inspiring as ever. I think that a really nice message that you send is to face the challenge with a smile and take the opportunity, right? So thank you so much for this message. If you have...
thank you all.
Thank you. If you have any question to propose to Shan, please write down in the chat, and Lida can pick up your question. Okay. We have one question. In the meanwhile, a poll will be launched for you to participate and start the panel session. Okay, I can see that we have just one question. What was it that made you decide in favor of a hybrid setup instead of a fully electronic one for FC 2020?
It wasn't the choice was not between the fully electronic one was sort of a low priority choice, because we already have the exhibition booked. Everything was booked. There are vendors coming in to the exhibition, so we need audience. We have the rooms all set up. The decision at the time was either we can't do it, we have to cancel, or we do a hybrid event that people are already coming. And how hybrid? Because after Wuhan lockdown, we already have some plan of the recorded presentation for people from for the Chinese participants. So somewhat hybrid there, and what we thought we're just expanding the hybrid part. Yes, so
thank you.
That's it, yeah.
Thank you, Shan. We launched the poll, and so please vote. And okay, we have another question. Maybe we can answer this question and just briefly comment the poll. Fatima, would you directly propose your question to Shan?
Sure. Yeah, my question. Thank you, Shanwei, for your presentation. I remember being there at OFC, and it was a very unusual experience. But my question is, yeah, there was lots of issues, and I think you guys solved it, loads of problems, and it's things that we never experienced before. So if you had one big learning from that experience that you think would be beneficial from all of the FCs to come, what would that be?
There's so many of them. I mean, experience as an organizer.
Yes, experience as an organizer, I would say, yes.
Yeah, experience as organizer. I imagine, not imagine. This is I'm pretty sure. Once we open up, the hybrid format will continue. So that's beneficial for people who want to come, but for family reasons or for some other reasons they cannot come, and everybody wants to be there. Most people want to be in presence. So my learning, so my assumption, I'm sure, is as the hybrid format would continue, and it's the how to set up the experience for remote participants. The problems we ran into was bringing in cable. We actually had to bring in Ethernet cables into the rooms. Everybody thought we could just do Zoom, how hard it is. But we have the audio, video equipment, and there was just not enough bandwidth. And we had to bring in extra cables. So that's something we found out just the week before, and OFC did a phenomenal job to set it up. So I think that as an organizer for future hybrid type of conferences, you need to check the infrastructure part and figure out how to set it up right.
Okay, thank you so much, Sean. I think that we can share the result of the poll. So now we have 41% of challenges reply to the poll as challenges, while the 58% say that this post-COVID era bring opportunities. So I would like to close now this first panel, this first with this poll result. I don't know, Sean, if you would like to comment on this. It seems that opportunities starting increase 61%. Sean.
To me, I think they are more opportunities, and but also it's up to us to grab it. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. So I now would like to move to the next invited talk. Fatima, already you are here with us. We can see you, and I would like to introduce you. Fatima is from Tyndall National Institute and University College Cork, Ireland, and is here to talk with us with exploring opportunities for change in research and education. So Fatima, please share your screen, okay, and the floor is yours.
Can you see my screen?
Sure, yes, thank you.
Perfect, I'll just put on presentation mode, hopefully. Perfect. Yeah, thank you for the organizers to invite me to give this talk. I think it's the first time that I'm giving a talk about, I suppose, the challenges and the opportunities that that we had during this period. So just bear with me. I think it's all new, and I just wanted to share my experiences with you. So my name is Fatima Ghani. I'm based in Tyndall National Institute and University College Cork in Ireland, in Cork. And you can contact me at any time if you have questions as well. I would like to start with this quote from Dr. Sean O'Boyle. I'm in contact. He's also from Ireland, and he works a lot in diversity, equality, and inclusion. And he tweeted his lines on the tweet just last week was very interesting, and I decided to add here for you. So he said, "When people say that COVID has exposed inequalities, what it really means is that they are finally aware of them, and that they are finally paying attention to them." I guarantee someone was talking about all that stuff before the pandemic. The reason I decided to do that, because there's a lot of news around the world talking about how Zoom burnout is real and it's worse for women, or what's the impact of COVID-19 academic mothers, and so on, all those different things. But the reality is, even here with the IEEE Women in Engineering, we are aware of those challenges already, and it's just, I think, it came to flourish, and some people just realized that all those issues are already happening there. But at the same time, you can see that starting to pop up opportunities. I think some of the things that we experienced, that's hence the question that I did to Sean Wei, was some of our experience, I think it came for the better, some are imminent to occur, and this is what I want to do today. So I'm going to reflect a little bit about my timeline. I think everybody's going to talk about timeline today. But where we made critical decisions here in Chengdu and in UCC, or implemented systems that are already about they were ripe to happen, and then they happen. So as my role here, there's lots of different, like everybody else, we all have lots of different hats, right? So I have my hat with research. This is my primary goal, really, is to do research. I have my hat that I do teaching. I also coordinate the postgraduate students here in Chengdu. I also do some training, particularly in teaching and learning. I see the work that we do also in terms of personal responsibilities, in terms of sustainability and impact to the society. And I do a lot of volunteering work for the professional societies, for my peers, and so on. So within all this umbrella, there's lots of different works that we need to think about and try to coordinate. And I think most times we balance everything within a very fine line, you know. So this is my timeline. From the left, we have March, April, May from last year, and from the right, we have January, February, March, April from this year in blue. And I'll start with the lockdown again in March. But before I do that, I will start with the OFC. I wasn't sure if I was going to OFC, and then I had lots of discussions with our health and safety manager if it was safe or not. And he said, you took all of the precautions that necessary, so it should be safe to go to OFC. But it was a very strange times. I agree with Sean Wei. It was quite empty. It's not an OFC that you will remember. It's always very busy, lots of things happening. It's still lots of things were happening, but it was strange times. And I remember I was coming back early on Wednesday, the 11th, and I was at the airport waiting for my flight to come. And the president of the United States, Donald Trump, he was just in the news saying that he was going to close all travel from Europe to the US. But we just said, I don't care, I just want to arrive home. And I arrived, and my connection to Ireland was in London Heathrow, which again, I've been to London Heathrow the last 25 years, and it's always very full. It was empty. I've never seen that scene before, which was very odd. And in Ireland, we went in lockdown on Thursday night at 6 o'clock in the evening, and I arrived at 7. So it was a very strange experience to arrive, and everything was closed, and I couldn't go back to the office. And that period between March and April was very strange here, because we couldn't go back to the labs. The labs were closed. The university was closed. Luckily, my teaching has finished before OFC. I planned everything in order to not to have any responsibility in terms of teaching from OFC onwards. But it was very odd. It was very strange, and nobody knew what to do. And there was a lot of pressures for researchers, because lots of labs in Europe were open. We have a lot of European projects, and we needed to, and we had the pressure to deliver those projects. I think by May, things were better, because we were thinking about what to do. And we already had a system for the large labs and the clean rooms, where people book a time to be in the clean room. So we decided to bring the system across the entire organization, because of handling capabilities and health and safety issues. Only a certain number of people could be inside any lab. So this is something that was about to happen, and we actually implemented finally because of the pressure of COVID-19. And I think now what happens, if you want to go to the lab, you have to be trained to be in the lab through an online system, trained on the restrictions regarding to COVID. And then you can book your time at 2 hour slots, but you can book two 2 hour slots, for example, to be in the lab. I think it's certainty that people have access to a particular machine, to a particular piece of equipment or test bed. And this is something I think that was positive at the end of the day, and everybody got used to it. In terms of teaching, it was the first time that we were rolling out online exams. I'm not a big fan of exams. I prefer continuous assessment. But we had to figure it out if our exams were good enough to be, or fair enough, if there will be an open book exam, equivalent to an open book exam. But luckily, because of my training on teaching and learning, my exam was already made as if it were with a book or not with a book. It's just to assess the learning, but not memorization. And I think this brought forward to the people who weren't prepared for something like that. By June, it was the beginning of the summer, I think people were having access to the lab and so on, but I think the thing that people missed the most was actually the coffee breaks or meeting people in the corridor. And sometimes you can have a conversation in the toilet, you know, I know it's quite funny, but it is true, is meeting people in those informal settings that I think people miss the most. So we decided to, well, lots of groups decided then to create online chats, online coffee breaks. The social aspects became really important, more important than anything else in order to keep the connections up. In September, then it starts the new academic year over here, and it was delayed because we didn't know if we would come back fully in person or online. And it turns out it was going to be online unless extreme circumstances such as students doing medicine and so on. And for me, that was new. Although I like the fact that we're teaching online, I didn't have, the lectures had to change in order to be more interactive online. And this is something that it was about to happen again. And it forced us to make sure that that happened, that the interaction was there. In terms of assessment, the particular module that I was doing, I changed it. I did a continuous assessment and I created something called a rubric, where you have certain criteria that you're going to be judged on, and that you show what the expectations are. And I think this gave a little bit more certainty to the students what to expect when they write a report. And in the meantime, I'm still doing the research, still trying to support all the students and so on. From January onwards, I think nothing changed in terms of research. I think we are still booking our systems online. Throughout this period, Ireland has been in lockdown, either at highest level or lowest level. So since January, we're at the highest level as well again. But research is essential. So there is no reason why people cannot come in and out of the lab. But I want to point, and I think now at the moment, I think people with a Zoom fatigue or Teams fatigue, because although it was good the connectivity, I think because our time slots are so well defined that people fill in all your time slots and suddenly your calendar is fully full. So I think we have to reassess, although certain things are very good, I think certain things we have to make sure that we have time off to be able to think, to be able to write proposals, to be able to write your papers. Meanwhile, I want to reflect what happens then at home. At home, I have two children, one in primary school, one in secondary school. And in March, there was no school and there was no sports and the kids were at home, and we had to do something called homeschooling, which is not true, the true definition of homeschooling. We had to help the children do some sort of homework and at the same time deal with all of the issues at home and work. In the summer, it was great because some outdoor activities were open, so they could go to summer camps, so you could continue to concentrate. I only have about 20 to 26 days annual leave, so I have to work the summer. I cannot just take the summer off. In September, they went back to school, which was a hooray. At least at the term for the schools in Ireland is quite short. It's between 8:30 in the morning and 2 o'clock for primary school. So, but at least you have the morning to be able to think, to be able to do your work and concentrate. But again, in January, we went in full lockdown. The kids were out of school again, no sports. And my son, he has special needs. And I have to be with him when he's doing his work, or I have to be there to support his needs or his emotional well-being as well. So although there was lots of stresses at work, there was lots of stress at home. And I think in that sense, it shows the kind of inequalities that we have, but we have to manage that somewhat and see what the opportunities we have. And they are back now at school finally 2 weeks ago. So what are the lessons that I learned from this period? So from the teaching or training or learning perspective, I think if we have clear on terms of assessment will be important. The recorded presentations were key because the students then have the flexibility to, just like in the conferences as well, that you have the flexibility to watch them again, pause it, think about it, rewind, go back again. And I think that was quite positive. The remote engagement is very difficult, it's more difficult. But there are some things like the polls that we're doing here with teams are quite useful to gauge the attention from the audience. And in terms of training, I think never before we have the opportunity to do training everywhere in the world, and the geographic distance is no longer a barrier. Even the professional societies provide so many opportunities for training, and I think people should consider that online content is there. We just have to find the time, I think, to be able to do that. This is just a snapshot. I don't want you to think about what is actually written, but it's just an example of the ECC Student Union did a survey to see what was working or not online. And you can see that a clear organization with the online content is important, informal interactions, they like the flexibility of the recorded lectures and so on. So we learn from this process, and we asked our students what they thought about that. In terms of research, there are different challenges there. I think most of the labs, they tend to run automations. I work on our photonic systems and communications lab. We have been automating our systems for a long time. And now we are using extra tools such as TeamViewer, where you can access the computer in the lab and run our experiments. But of course, being there is better because you can adjust the bias of your Mach Zehnder, you can adjust the power supply to get a better performance, but at least some of the work can be done remotely if you don't have access to the lab. The other one I want to point out is the conferences. I agree with Shanwei that potentially hybrid format is important. I think one thing that I saw from last year's conferences was that it was free for students. So there were students all over the world participating in the conference and had access to state-of-the-art research that they will find very difficult otherwise. Or those who are unable to travel, that they have responsibilities at home and so on. One thing that I want to point out, I think it was the worst year for me in writing proposals. I really didn't have the time to write proposals. I think I was involved with one new proposal that then was rejected, but you have to, in academia, in Europe, you are involved in the writing proposals all the time. So I think extending the submission deadlines is really helpful. And potentially we could implement some sort of COVID impact statement should be considered, because I think the lockdowns had impacted people in different ways that you weren't able to, you can't do everything in my opinion. Here is a very interesting article. It was actually from USA that came recently and I clicked on it, and it has a very good guidelines how we can ensure the inclusion and to all, given what we learned from the COVID period. I'm not going to read you through them, but here are some, for example, the scientific societies talk about virtual learning, or funding agencies provide multi-year no-cost extensions and so on. There's other things talking about continued remote work may be beneficial also to ensure that we have diverse and inclusive workforce. In terms of work and volunteer, I'm not running out of time, but I'm nearly done. I think that is the most important thing that I want to say is the listen. And I think what I learned at work, most of all, is people needed to talk about certain things. Having one-to-ones were really important in order to be able to listen to people's concerns. And sometimes they are concerned about things that actually can be easily solved. And because we are not meeting at somebody knocking on the door or not meeting in the corridor, those things that are very easily solved in a very quick conversation, you're now booking a meeting to do that. But if we had to take the time to talk to people, those things can be smoother before it becomes a really snowball. I find that online meetings are better. I think they are on time. I think people, there's better engagement. I have a lot of meeting cross campus here locally. Sometimes it takes half an hour to walk to a meeting. And I had much better attendance because it's online rather than in person. So I think it's a hybrid, again, format, but I felt that in those scenarios, it was much better to have online meetings than having personal meetings. And here's an example of the Degree Photonic Society where there's a lot of content online, how they are supporting, they still continue to support the chapters, still continue to support the students and their members as well. And just a reminder that 16th of May is International Day of Light. And finally, work and life balance. I think that was the hardest part because everything is in one room. Actually, I'm here today in my office and I asked for special permission, but most of the time I'm in my living room and everybody was in the living room at the same time. And I think I got stressed many times, but I think we only live once as well and children grow. And I think you just have to take your time and sometimes things have to, something has to we have to let something go. And I think one thing that I let it go was the housework. I think there will always be, and it's awful, so don't tell my mother, but she'll be appalled with that. But it's true, housework is something that next day you'll be dirty again and you have to clean it all over again. So I stopped being stressed about that because, okay, I'll do it in the weekend, you know, something like that. The one-to-ones, I think, with family and friends is really important to keep us sane. And I think switching off, having the time of the day that you switch off completely, I found that has been very beneficial as well to keep sane. Here's a news from the Workplace Relations Commission here in Ireland, showing that our Taoiseach is the Deputy Prime Minister, signed a code of practice on the right to disconnect. And there are many other encouraging observations, I would say. Even yesterday in the Irish Times says that say hello to a hybrid post-COVID workplace, for example, and many other things. So this is what I wanted to show. I think there was many stresses, but many opportunities that we changed, that were due to change anyhow. So Michela, I'm sorry that I was a bit late here.
No, don't worry. We are really a little bit running out of time, but also because we start a little bit in delay. Thank you so much, Fatima, for sharing your experience and also offer us all these opportunities to see that this period is not only a challenge, but offer us lots of interesting way to face the future that is waiting for us. Thank you so much. Since we are a little bit in delay, maybe we can postpone the question for Fatima during the panel session. And I directly give the floor to Annalisa. Annalisa Morea is from Nokia Italy, and the title of her invited talk is Stronger, the Nokia Women Community for Facing Difficulties Together and Paving the Way to New Opportunities. Please, Annalisa, the floor is yours, and thank you again, Fatima.
Okay, I will take the screen from Fatima. So please, if you can tell me if you can see my presentation.
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Perfectly.
So thank you, Michela, and all the workshop organizer for inviting me into this workshop and giving me this opportunity of sharing. Okay, and introduce to you the stronger community inside Nokia. So as it has been introduced by by Fatima and also before during this workshop, 2020 was an unexpected, challenging year under many aspects. For Nokia Italy in Vimercate, everything started on February 24th, when the first COVID-19 case was discovered in Lombardy. At that time, all workers were encouraged to work from home so as to reduce contagion. Just 2 weeks after, the first lockdown was announced and the situation was more difficult to face. This was a very difficult moment for everyone that impacted different fields of our lives. Everyone faced myriad pandemic-related challenges. From an emotional point of view, we had the pandemic event. People did not really understood what was happening and the urgency behind. Then we were used to work all together in an office, and we had to do it remotely from home. And we had to rearrange our life, just like Fatima was telling before. In many cases, workers had to invent in their home a room to dedicate as an office, and in many cases there was no capability or possibility to break up from work, so that people were always on without splitting the day into working and free time. And in top of that, workers had to take care of children that also stayed at home and required attention for homeschooling, and not only, above all, if children are in early ages. To help and support its employees to manage this hard moment, Nokia, like other companies, organized many online events for sharing valuable information with the employees, including meetings with medical experts that explained how to behave during this first pandemic phase, with the psychology that provided trainings to explain how to organize the personal and professional time, but also to recognize any type of mood disorders. Mental health and bereavement counseling was also offered. A lot of attention was addressed on family care, health checks, and parenting resources. This support was done and opened to all workers. But although these factors hurt all employees, women have been more negatively impacted. Why? Because of cultural and social education. Working mothers have always worked a double shift, a full day of work followed by hours spent in caregiving and doing housework. And then mothers are more than 3 times as likely as fathers on doing it. Then mothers also worry more than fathers that their performance is being negatively judged due to their caregiving responsibility by their companies. It followed that many women felt alone and overpassed by this situation, developing 3 very dangerous feelings that negatively impact on their performance, both professionally and in their family context. These feelings were fear about this unknown period and then also its effect. And this fear was greater above all if we think to single mothers. Then there was the frustration for not being efficient as they would like to be. Women may be more likely to take blame for failures, to feel burned out, under pressure to work more. And they think to they have to be always on. And then the main consequence of that is stress for emotional charges and also for lack of rest and time for themselves. All these negative feelings affected women, but also any people that represent minority and are not fully recognized inside the organization. And it has been demonstrated that minorities are in a society, in a company, are women, young people, and foreigners. In Italy, many public studies show that among people that was not able to find a new job, 2/3 are women because of less protective working activities or because they work in most crisis impacted sectors. A worse data was observed on the percentage of people that lost their job. Most of them are women. And all minority inequalities, gender, racial, social, intensified, and the risk is that this inequality will last more than the COVID effect. So COVID pandemic has highlighted the large and small inequality, both at work and also at home. The bad news is that this is not an isolated Italian issue, but as is shown in this title of the LinkedIn study, this is a global problem. In the US, there is a report called The Impact of COVID-19 on Women, where the gender equality is the 5th over 17 of Sustainable Development Goals that have to be addressed in 2021. In the next plots, I give you 2 of McKinsey charts that were published over the last year and illustrates the pandemic gender effect. So first of all, we found here the representation of the number of women that considering downshifted their careers or leaving the workforce. There is 1 in 4 women that are considering reduce their working charge versus 1 in 5 men. And this disparity come across as particularly stark with parents that have kids under 10. In this group, we observed that women that are considering leaving is 10 percentage points higher than for men. And then another study observed that despite companies' efforts to support employees during the crisis, women are feeling more exhausted, burned out, and under pressure than men, as it is represented by these bullets. By the blue points, we have the percentage of women versus men that feels exhausted. And we can see that into this chart we have this percentage that is represented for fathers and mothers, then women and men with a senior level, and then there is another chart, another plot that represents this feeling for Black women and Black men. Then there is also another McKinsey study that demonstrated that women, especially for women of color, are more likely to have been laid off or furloughed during COVID-19 crisis, stalling their careers and jeopardizing their financial security. Nokia believes that gender equality is good for the economy and the society as well. Indeed, researchers show that company profit and share performance can be close to 50% higher when women are well represented at the top, because senior women have a vast and meaningful impact on company culture, and they embrace employer-friendly policies and programs, and to champion racial and gender diversity. And then women are more likely to be mentor and sponsor for other minority present into a company. And this is the reason why Nokia believe into the community like Stronger, that aim to virtually collaborate and grow together. Before COVID-19, the Stronger organization was recognized by UNESCO as an exceptional group to assume as a model. And then during 2020 year, and still it is also observed during the 2021, this special network helped women and in general any type of minority in Nokia to face these new difficulties, coaching them in scheduling time and also in their personal development. So which are the objectives of Strong Hair? These objectives are very similar to the women in engineering objective that were presented during the first talk into this workshop. So the objective of Stronger Hair there, so to give voice to women and promote their visibility and ambition, then act to reveal role models and work with managers to promote women's success, support Nokia business relationship, and then inspire. So share best practice through coaching, participate with international organization and gender diversity forum, and also offer business relevant content. So how Stronger do it in Nokia. So with the training on activities that are considered minor for women, for example, the financial studies, financial topics. Then also with some training on self-promotion, like for example, the I'm Remarkable workshops, that is a Google initiative that aim empowering women and the underrepresented group, and also to celebrate their achievement in the workplace. And then also with a set of conferences and workshop on the cultural mindset, like could be discriminative language, different confidence on work efficiency, and so on. So the main intent of Strong Hair is to provide a cultural investment for the tomorrow changes. Last December, many women described in a Stronger Works web page the help that they received from this network and during 2020 year, and claimed that despite COVID issues, this was a very rich year where they could reflect about their professional path and career aspiration. And then also that thanks to this reflection, they could understand which is their future into the company. And in 2021, they are developing new skills. And all these results were possible thanks to the help of mentors and coaches. Since the beginning of Stronger activities, the Nokia company supported this community, as shown into these words by the CEO at that moment, Suri Rajiv, in 2018. And also from words coming from other people in the organization. And this is just because this support comes because Nokia believes into the diversity and the inclusion, think that inclusion is essential to Nokia's success because it enriches the team performance and the way we work. So as a conclusion, during this work, I showed you how Nokia is trying to fill the inequality gap coming from the past and that may be exacerbated by COVID-19. There are many worldwide and internal initiatives that are promoted and that encourage women and all the minority to go on their work and career, to change their mindset and believe more in themselves. So opportunities are there. Now it is up to us to take the action. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Annalisa. It's really impressive, this initiative, and it's really a good thing that lots of women can benefit of this. I don't know if we have a really short question for Annalisa now, otherwise we can move to the next speaker and left all the discussion for the last panel. Okay, maybe not, so we can continue. And thank you again, Annalisa. And I would like to introduce Roberto Saracco, IEEE FDC Chair Industry Advisory Board and Co-Chair Digital Reality Italy. The title of his talk is the digital transformation accelerating, or is it just a temporary crash? So let's try to answer this question with Roberto. Roberto, the floor is yours. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much for inviting me. And I hope you can see my screen so I can move on.
Yes, perfectly. Thanks.
Thanks a lot. So what I'm planning to do, I'm really not familiar with women, so I'm not a good representative for women. I'll stick to technology. I would like to share with you what we feel the digital transformation is as a starting point for then discussing where are we, and then trying to answer the question whether what we're seeing is an acceleration or whether it is just a digital crutch that we're going to throw away once this pandemic will be eventually over. And then a few words about where we are going. So what is the digital transformation? Well, to me, it is basically a shift to the economy of abundance. You see, we've been living from the very beginning into a world made of atoms. But with technology and using sensors, we've been able to mirror these atoms into bits. And we have been creating a world in the cyberspace. Now, working in the cyberspace, as we have been doing through this pandemic, offers some advantages because it's easier to manipulate bits than atoms. If I have an atom and I give you my atom, you have it, but I no longer have it. But if I have a bit and I'll give you my bit, I still have it. Bits are indistinguishable in the sense of copies or original. You cannot tell a bit whether it's an original or a copy. This is changing really the way the economy behaves, and it's affecting everything: products, processes, business model, and so on. Now, if you studied economy 50 years ago, all you learned about economy is still valid today. So it's not true what you read sometime on newspaper saying that, okay, we are living in a new economy, okay, implying that it's working using different rules. That's not true at all. What we're seeing is that the parameters that we have been used to work with have changed in values and have changed in specificity, in quantity. So we have the added values creation is changing when you're moving from atoms to bits. The material cost, the raw material cost, of course, is very different. Bits basically cost nothing as a raw material. And the transaction cost, which is the cost of moving stuff around, of picking up a pallet and placing on a lorry and having it transported over highways, is not comparable with the cost of sending bits, chunks of bits over the internet. So these are the differences. And all this boils down that the marginal cost is dramatically different. If I am to build a new object because I've got a new client and I need to build this new object, then I have to invest money in the raw material for that, in the all components of this kind of thing, in packaging it, in sending it over using some form of transportation. So I've got a new cost because I'm producing a new product, a new copy of that product. But if I am delivering a service, whether I'm delivering the service to one person or to 100 person, doesn't really make any big difference. The marginal cost is basically zero. And the economic laws that goes back 300 years ago, okay, so it's nothing new, are telling us that in a competitive system, the price of a product tends to reach the marginal cost. So if the marginal cost of a product is zero, then the price tends to zero. And on the right-hand side, you see a list of very complex software applications that are basically provided for free, which seems impossible if you were living in the real world made of atoms, but which makes sense because producing one extra copy of one of these apps doesn't cost anything, and therefore the price tends to zero. Now, when we're moving to the cyberspace, we are playing with bits, and these bits represent data. Now, data are becoming a commodity in the sense that there's plenty of data everywhere. We can use this data for different things. And actually, it is the way we're using the data that gives value to this data. So imagine you are using some safety camera, security camera, over a crossing point in your city, and you see that there's a traffic jam. This is a factual situation, okay? The camera picks up that all cars are slowing down, then are stopped. And using descriptive analytics, you can see there's a traffic jam. What happened? But then you can move on and ask yourself, why did it happen? Is it because there's a big soccer match, then everybody has just finished and everybody's getting out of the stadium? Well, in that case, it's likely that the traffic jam will just resolve by itself once all the people have been gone out of the stadium. This is diagnostic analytics. Or is there an accident. So unless you're removing the cars and the buses, whatever caused the accident, the traffic jam is just going to get worse. So the question is, what will happen? Okay, and this is predictive analytics. Here we are really starting to increase the value of data. And the maximum value can be achieved when you move into prescriptive analytics, asking, how can we make it happen? What can I do to solve the problem? This is the area where we can actually increase the value. Now, this is the digital transformation, moving into the cyberspace and understanding how to increase the value by operating in the cyberspace. Now, what we are seeing is that the landscape is really a patchwork in terms of penetration of the digital transformation. It differs by sector and by geography. We can say that in the music sector, probably we already have a full digital transformation accomplished. In the travel sector, probably is very, very advanced. How many times have you, well, more recently, none probably, but just remember 2 years ago, how many times did you go to a travel agency to buy your ticket? Unlikely. You do that all over the internet, which means that many travel agencies had to reinvent themselves or just fade out of the market because there was no longer a place for them to add value. The entertainment sector is clearly halfway. There's still a lot that can be done, and even more so in the manufacturing and in healthcare. Actually, healthcare in 2019 was seen as lagging behind all major sectors of application of digital transformation. But there were already at that time, before the pandemic, a very clear indication that the healthcare sector would be leading the digital transformation by the second half of this decade. And really what happened with the pandemic was an acceleration. We have been forced to move into the cyberspace for several things in healthcare as well. Now, if we're looking at the manufacturing, we are seeing companies like General Electric that have not just undertaken a digital transformation, significant digital transformation, but they are also developing guidelines for other companies in their ecosystem to move into the digital transformation. And they created this playbook for digital transformation. They are using the cyberspace as they are building turbines, as shown on the right-hand side. They are using augmented reality for workers to see inside the turbine and understand what is going on. In the construction area, Arup, as an example, you see the image there, is one of the largest construction company in the world. They are present in over 150 countries. And they build their buildings in the computer first, and then they are constructing them using a direct computer to machine implementation orders. And then they are using the digital model that is called digital twin of their building to operate the building and to understand how it's going, whether there's some repair that needs to be done, whether some fine tweaking needs to be done in the operation of the building, and so on. For healthcare, we have seen a digital transformation entering in the hospitals, in elderly care units, by deploying sensors, by having a machine connecting to a central monitoring system to increase effectiveness of the operation. And now we are seeing that also the patient are started to be enveloped or wrapped inside sensors. And we are already seeing as just a mass market that we can use these Apple Watches, these Fitbands, that provide information on our physiological state. And there's a lot of work coming up in this area. Actually, the pandemic has accelerated this kind of thing. We have seen services for telehealth care increasing by 1,000% with respect to 2019. So an amazing explosion of application of the cyberspace. We are also seeing the application in the smart cities, and these, again, here you see an example of the first city that developed a digital twin of the city, Singapore. And basically, they can model with this digital twin all the operation in Singapore. And they have been using this kind of thing to detect pandemic infection focus hubs in Singapore. And they have been able to control much better the evolution of the pandemic using this kind of approach. Now, if we're looking overall the situation of the several countries, we see here an analysis from Bloomberg on the GDP data from the World Bank in 2019, and they try to match this kind of GDP per capita on the digitalization score. And as you see, there are countries like Singapore, Norway, and so on that are very, very advanced in digitalization, but they also have a very high GDP. So what, you can read this kind of thing by saying, okay, if you're digitalizing more, you get a bigger GDP. But actually, it's not the way it works. It's the other way around. If you have plenty of money, then you can afford digitalizing your country. So this is not really an interesting graphics if you want to move into the digitalization. This one is perhaps a little bit more interesting because it shows the digitalization components. And as you see there, you've got the, let's say, the blue band, which is the one of connectivity. And it's about broadband and something like that and so on. But then you have other factors that are very interesting, and that is the human capital, how people are prepared to develop products and services in the digital space. And then you see the use of internet service, and these are cultural factors, of course. And then you've got the integration of digital technology. Most of the time, what you see is a digital transformation or a pretended digital transformation that is evolving by creating digital silos, whereas the real digital transformation involves integration of different things. And finally, you see the importance of the digital public services, because this, again, is another factor that connects public investment with private investment and the use of digitalization. This graphic is actually much more interesting and important because it shows the placement of different countries in terms of digital evolution, right? But in terms of the momentum. So how the people are perceiving that their country is evolving. And here is a very, very important, because if you have a perception at the cultural level that something is changed, then you can buy into it because you can see the difference. It might be a very small difference, like in Cambodia, as an example, but still you see that there's progress going on, okay? Whilst if you take another country very well developed, like Sweden, okay, very great services and all this kind of thing, but if you talk to these people, you see they do not have the impression that the country is advancing, okay? It's good and it stays good. It's a quite different attitude, and it's very important to consider this kind of thing because if you want to sell the digital transformation, if you really want to change it, you need to give the perception to people that something is actually changing. And this brings me to the fact of trying to answer the question. So what we're seeing today is really an accelerated digital transformation, or is it a digital crutch? Well, this image is taken from above the King's Cross area, where you have the headquarters of Facebook and Google. And in this area, there used to work thousands and thousands of people that, of course, used to have lunch break and used to go to the pret-a-manger to get a sandwich. Now, all the pret-a-manger in the area have closed down in the last year because there was no one there. And it's not just that, it's many, many shops that have been forced to close down. The hotels have been closed down and so on. This is because Facebook and Google have decided they can work as well from home, from remote. And they have basically abandoned the area. And by abandoning the area, all the businesses that were piggyback on the presence of those workers have disappeared. This has transformed the area. And even the rental space for offices, for home, dramatically went down. And you see people in London that are just abandoning their current home because with what they pay today, they can get a much better flat in a much better area at the same price. So this is really changing the overall structure, and it goes also for student room price that is diving and so on. Now, if you're looking at technology, well, technology is both influence and it influences what is going on. This diagram that you see there has been developed by the Future Direction Initiative by considering all the feedback that have been received for CTOs and CEOs of some 100 companies around the world in terms of how the technology is helping or to what extent is changing their work. And you have all around, well, you can get the slides and you'll see in details all this kind of thing. But the main point that I want to convey you is the fact that there is a tangled web, okay? Everything is connected to everything else. And you need to understand this kind of connection. It's not like the sense of saying, okay, I'm focused on that, I'm changing that, and that is fine. No, by changing something, you're changing everything else. And what we have seen in the technology is that actually in the space of a week, these are the graphics in Italy of the amount of traffic that ramped up in the week that we started the lockdown last year. So the traffic multiplied by 2, sometimes by 4, and even by 10 in certain use of certain application. And yet the network survived with no glitches at all. Operating companies were able to double the capacity of their infrastructure in a matter of 2-3 days. That's amazing, you see. They moved Telecom Italia from 4.4 terabit per second of the backbone capacity to over 8 terabit per second in just 2 days. And the same did Vodafone, from 2.7 to 4.8. This is just impressive, okay? And the same went for data center. And actually we saw that Azure, AWS, and so on, they were able to pick up the massive load that resulted from companies moving their data to their services to provide remote access capability. Now, talking to CEO and CTOs, I've got the message that, yes, we did this, but we want to go back to the previous situation. So their answer is, this is a digital crutch, okay? As soon as we don't need it, we go back. And the reason is that our processes have been defined, they are telling me, to operate in the physical space. Operating in the digital space would require different processes, but that would require a different organization. They will need to adapt to a different context. And I can consider these only if at the same time I will develop some new ways, some new business model to leverage on the new situation. Because what happens when you are moving to the cyberspace, you're decreasing your market value. And so you absolutely need to change your business. So to close, where are we going? Well, for the first time, we have seen at national and transnational level a very, very strong focus on sustainable economies, on circular economy, on green, and so on. And companies have been talking about this kind of thing for many, many years, but nobody did anything, basically, okay? They just made declarations, say, oh, we're all for the circular economy. But in practice, they didn't do anything because it costs money to do this kind of thing. But nowadays, with the European Commission pouring 1.7 trillion of euros into the basket, and US pouring 1.9 trillion, Japan 3 trillion, and so on. Well, with these big numbers, the situation is going to change because Europe, US, and other countries are saying, okay, I'm going to give you this money, provided that you're using it to change the way business is being done and go into a more sustainable economy. And now a more sustainable economy also implies making use of the cyberspace as much as you can, because you're decreasing many factors of cost and many kind of pollution, even though there are different kinds of pollution there. So this is going really to accelerate the digital transformation. So the end of my talk is basically, today, most of the companies are seeing the current digital transformation as this digital crutch, but the amount of money that is coming in our way to the companies is going really to accelerate the digital transformation. And what we have been doing today will be very, very useful because companies have learned that something can be done in an effective way using the digital space. Thank you. Here you get more information.
Thank you so much, Roberto, for this really interesting presentation, this interesting talk. I invite Ligia to co-chair this moment of this panel and this moment of the workshop. I see that we already have a discussion started in the chat that has been inspired by Roberto. So, Ligia.
Yes, of course. Gino Mazzini, he commented, more than a question, it was a comment. The example of the free apps doesn't tell the whole truth, in my opinion. Most apps today collect vast amounts of data from the users, and that's where the added value for the developer lies. Then Patrizia Pavon answered my feelings. Gathering data is only one of the possible motivations. Sure, it happens, but many open source projects just exist to diffuse something useful or even to tell, look what a great coder I am. And Gino Mazzini answered again that he agrees, but most of the free apps mentioned in this slide aren't even open source, which to me is a cause of concern. Could you comment that, please, Roberto Saraco?
Okay, well, let's say that there's a general movement that started several years ago to go toward open source. What I think is even more important today is the initiative from the European Union to fund and to set up the Gaia X. Gaia X is a major initiative that is already clustering some 240 companies worldwide. So it's no longer a European initiative in sense of participation. And it's aiming at developing open data spaces. So in many different fields. Healthcare to start with, of course, but in construction, manufacturing, automotive, and you name it. These open data spaces connect in a way to the point of the open software. Because since we're moving to the cyberspace and data are becoming so huge, okay, it's important to make them available under certain rules so that you can preserve privacy, you can preserve ownership to stimulate business and so on. And this is what Gaia X should be providing, open data spaces. And I think that this is going to be a major factor over the next 2-3 years to really accelerate the digital transformation.
Thank you very much. Now to Annalisa Morea, Fatima Ghanen asked a question. Do you see in the near future that Nokia would approach a flexible work arrangement to facilitate retention of staff and better work-life balance post-COVID time? You were muted, Annalisa.
Yes, sorry, sorry. Yes, I think yes, there will be a more flexible organization of the work. I think that home working or smart working will be enhanced, and already Nokia is giving us the opportunity to take chairs from offices so that we can arrange a better, a more comfortable place at home. And I think that they are trying to create a shared room, a shared an organization of the work where half time we can do it from home and half time from office, and this will be arranged by ourselves depending on our needs. And now I think that the objective will be, I don't care if you are at office from 9 to 6 p.m. 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. What is most important is that you achieve your objectives. So you can arrange your time considering your also personal constraints. So if you have children or any kinds of caregiving and so on. So in the end, I think that they are they're focusing more into an organization of the self. That is, we have objectives and as a company, and the workers have to organize themselves so as to provide and achieve these objectives, and this is the most important thing. And I think that the feeling of the company is that if we are comfortable between our personal and professional life, we can be more comfortable than in providing results.
Thank you for your answer. Should we comment already in the slightly different results of the poll?
Yes, we can comment the results. We have now 75% of opportunities for this new era, instead of the challenges that the 25% of the attendees envision for it. So it seems that something changed during this workshop, that some opportunities well, actually, is rising up 76%. So it seems that the presentation and this interesting discussion that and journey that we are having seems to also give us the opportunity to see this good result with respect to the previous one that was 61% of opportunities among the perspective of our attendees. Diana, would you like to comment?
Okay. Yes. I'm very happy that the discussion and the very nice presentations brought some very important considerations into light. The situation is, of course, difficult, and I was impressed by the problems Shan had to face with the OFC, and the uncertainty we are experiencing also today. At that time was terrible, and everything was closed and so on. I think that we have a positive balance now, because the lesson learned brought by the other speakers and also the final talk from Roberto who highlighted the boost in the digitalization brought by the COVID. I think that the balance is positive in any case, because companies, academia, and so on learned a lot of lessons. And I think that from the women point of view, this also changed the perception of the management of work life and the personal life. So a better balance can be reached through the flexibility of remote work if we really learn how to use it. It's an opportunity, but we have to learn how to catch the added value of this opportunity. That's all from my side. I wish to thank all the speakers and the co-chairs here of the workshop. We worked very well, and I really hope to see you soon in person. I'm going to miss very much these events in person. Thank you, Guido.
Hello. Hi.
Hi, Guido. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for this excellent workshop and organization.
Thank you for giving us the possibility to do it, to this opportunity. We take the opportunity, as Shan said.
I would like just to make a few comments regarding, in general, this event. For DRCN, I think it's the first time, it's the first edition that is hosting a Women in Engineering event. I am not in the steering committee, but while organizing this particular edition, working in close contact with Prosper Shemuil, who is the chair of the steering committee, we were also talking about the fact that this kind of event can be repeated also in the next editions of the RCN. And I think it's also very useful to have a women engineering chair, because of course in the ideal world, the opportunities would be fair for both the genders. But we know that especially in our field, unfortunately, the number of female researchers is still limited. I think this kind of initiatives can have also good impact on the students in order to promote more people, more female students to get involved in our subjects, because the distribution of gender in our research area exactly reflects the distribution of genders in our university courses. I think it's everywhere more or less the same. So again, thank you very much for your strong effort and your participation and the very nice contributions. That is my message. I don't know if Prosper is online, but probably he's not here in this moment. But I think he would confirm my words.
Thank you so much, Guido, really. And now I see that the opportunities still increase to 78%. And regarding what you said, Guido, maybe I would like to give again the word to Fatima, that emphasize a lot these aspects, the work, family life balance, but also all the opportunities related and the situation related to the student and facing this issue in the academia. So Fatima, would you like to comment? I can also ask to the other, to all the invited speakers to switch on the camera for this last panel, the last minutes that we have to spend with them and with attendees.
Yeah, I think, thank you for the invitation again. I think it was a very interesting panel, also interesting to see from different perspectives as well, the impact of COVID, the impact of digitalization. The discussions here on the chat was very interesting as well about the digitalization and the fact that maybe we're giving too many things for free. And I think during COVID, what you find that everybody was connected to the internet, right? So even the children were connected to the internet. The children were using apps in order to connect to the schools, and how much more information they are giving away as well in that case. So I think there's a lot of food for thought. I think there'll be years to come that we are going to be analyzing what happened in the last year or within 2 years. But what I hope is that we learned a lot from this period, and like my question to Annalisa is to see that we learn from that and we're going to implement change that are better for the future.
Thank you, Fatima. I see that there is another question. Maybe we have time to answer it. Ligia, would you like to propose it?
Yes, of course. Laia Nadal. First, thank you all for the presentation. And do you think that also meetings will be different from before COVID? Maybe in some cases, virtual or hybrid formats will be maintained?
Well, I can take it from the point of view of IEEE. We have been experiencing a lot of cyber conference, virtual conferences, and the general feedback that we get is that the on-site one are much better. However, the impression is that we will go toward a hybrid format, as was mentioned previously by a speaker, I think. So the focus will remain on-site because the current technology is not really allowing that kind of interaction that you can have when you are on site. And besides, you have the beach, you have the seaside, and all this kind of thing that makes the conference much more interesting. But at the same time, we will probably keep using an hybrid format to allow those people that are not coming to the conference, that cannot come to the conference on site to participate. The big issue is the business model, because of course you have to charge more for people attending on site because you have to pay for the infrastructure, all this kind of thing, for the food. And so you would say that, okay, I charge more for if you're in present, I charge less if you're not coming and you follow from remote. But that would incentivize probably people to attend from remote. Particularly company would say, okay, you need to go to the conference, do it from remote. So it's a fine line that you have to walk. It's not that easy. We'll have to see how to do this kind of thing. It might be that hybrid conference will have also a time-shifted participation, so that actually you can participate, but it's not like being there because the results have already been taken there. So it's something that will have to be discussed and find out. It's not clear.
Thank you, Roberto. So lots of work. Yes, sure.
I can jump in. Actually, we experienced the online format twice because I was the general co-chair of DRCN 2020 as well, and we were ready to host it in Milan live, of course. It was scheduled for the middle of March. So everything was ready, and as in the case of OFC, the pandemic broke out. So we had to take some decisions. The decisions was to not moving anything. So we kept the date, we kept the main conference, we kept all the collateral events, workshops, tutorials, keynotes, except one that was actually postponed to this year. It was workshop number 1, was already designed in 2020. And that was really a jump into no one land, unknown land. But I should say that the experience at the end proved to be not so bad because let's say, new tools, I think are very useful. For instance, the fact that you can, you have the option to play a video of a pre-recorded presentation, which is probably going to stay also in the future, maybe also even in conferences that are run in presence, especially if, for instance, the speaker it's the first time that he prepares a speech or so on. Of course, the speaker should be there to answer questions, but the video is quite effective because you don't have the possibility of running out of time. Oh, is there, is already there. So basically, of course, it's as Roberto said, the on-presence would be always the best form because you meet people actually. But I think that in this emergency situation, the possibility of providing conferences in this alternative form proved to be, let's say, quite effective, at least in our experience. It's true that you have the business model problem In terms of number of attendees, it's very difficult to say if the on-presence or online is better. So which one is better? In the online form, usually you have more people that are potential attendees, let's say, so maybe they register for the whole conference. But they have also the opportunity of picking just the sessions that they prefer, which is, of course, not the case in the on-presence. But on the other hand, especially for small conferences, sometimes the on-presence editions had a very small number of participants. So I think it's, again, we have to take it as new opportunities and to see what happens in the future.
Can I add something?
Sure.
Yeah, I think that the hybrid solution is very good for from my point of view. I work not in research but in development team, and my colleagues are not very not interested but used to participate to conferences, and with the in-person conferences, there was a lot of cost associated to the participation. And so the organization was used to select people that had to join to participate to a conference. And usually there was more research people. And my colleagues that worked only on development was not used to participate to conferences, and in some way used to open their mind to other subject, to other topics. And what I saw with this online solution is that as costs are reduced, leaders can accept that also people from development that for the first time can participate to this kind of events. And so I think that this is a great opportunity for letting people into all peoples, to give an opportunity to all people into my organization to participate to conferences like DRCN or OFC, and so provide them some opportunities, new opportunities for their personal growth, but also career in case. So and then just also to connect to the question done before, I think that for what it concerns meetings, we are used to work with all the into the worldwide, because Nokia is in the US, India, and so on. But and so we are used to have online meetings. But I think that some personal meeting in person will be kept, above all when we have to start new, very sensitive topics. I think that the human contact will remain and be focused on some sensitive situations. So I think that the online and web activities is a good opportunity, but will not be the only solution.
Yes, also as Fatima said before, no, the fatigue related to being always and constantly connected. But this is actually a reality. Actually, everybody of us also hope to have the opportunities, at least the opportunity to again be back to conference live. So also maybe in a hybrid modality, but hope to start again also the social activities that previously we are used to and also love as part of our job. So We still some time of the coffee break, but I think that was really, it has been really interesting to continue our discussion. Maybe, but we have to close at 11:20. There is the demo session. So enjoy the coffee break. I would like to thank you so much again, the organization, the chair, the fantastic team, organizing team of this workshop, and of course the great invited speakers that we have today. So thank you again so much. I don't know, Ligia, Diana, if you would like to spend some few words for closing.
I would also like to thank everybody for all their effort, especially Michael and Diana for the organization, and of course to all the speakers. All of your presentations were very, very interesting, and we had an interesting discussion also now. So thank you.
I also wish to thank the organization of the conference, the organizing team. I really enjoyed your company and your support, and I wish to thank the speakers for their interesting contribution. I'm impressed that the discussion continues in the chat. That's really a sign of great success of this discussion. Thank you very much.
Yes, it's amazing. I really would like to thank the audience, the attendees of this event, and let's hope to meet again, hopefully in presence at the next edition of the DRCN 2022.
Okay. So thank you very much to everybody, and especially to Ligia, who was the pivot in this workshop. So we will rejoin the conference at 11:20 more or less. So we have 10 minutes coffee break for the demo session. And I remind you this afternoon the third workshop about data plane programmability with the final keynote speech by Professor Nick McCune, and then the closing session. See you later. Have a nice coffee, and I am going to share the coffee break slide as usual.
Thank you again.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks to the attendants. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.